These individuals aren't lucky, they're not genetically gifted. What they're doing is actually quite simple, but it's so uncommon that less than 5% of people in this age group do all six of these things together. I'm Dr. Peterson. Over the past 25 years working in geriatric medicine, I've cared for thousands of older adults. I've watched some lose their independence far too early, and I've watched others maintain sharp minds, strong bodies, and vibrant lives well into their 80s and beyond. The difference rarely comes down to luck. It comes down to six specific daily habits that most people either ignore, misunderstand, or never learn about in the first place. What you're about to hear might challenge what you've been told about aging. Some of it contradicts advice you may have received from well-meaning friends or even from healthcare providers who aren't up to date on the latest research. The sixth habit might sound too simple to matter. The fourth habit contradicts what many seniors were taught in the past, and the number one habit is so powerful that researchers at the National Institute on Aging have called it one of the most effective tools we have for protecting the aging brain. Before we begin, let me ask you something. What age are you watching from? And if you're already doing one of these habits regularly, drop a comment and let me know which one. I'd love to hear from you. Let's start with number 6. Number 6, they lift heavy things twice a week. Most people in their late 70s assume strength training is either too risky or no longer relevant. They imagine bodybuilders and gym rats. They think lifting weights is something you did when you were younger, not something you do when your knees ache and your back gets stiff. But here's what the research actually shows. After age 75, muscle loss accelerates dramatically. Without resistance training, the average adult loses approximately 8% of their muscle mass every decade. But after 70, that rate doubles. This isn't just about looking fit. This is about survival. Muscle powers everything. Walking, standing up from a chair, catching yourself when you stumble, getting dressed, carrying groceries, even your metabolism, your immune system, and your ability to regulate blood sugar all depend on healthy muscle. When muscle disappears, independence disappears with it. The biology here is straightforward. Muscle fibers respond to resistance. When you challenge them with weight, your body sends signals to repair and strengthen those fibers. This process doesn't stop at 70 or 80 or even 90. A landmark study published by researchers at Tufts University took adults in their 80s and 90s and put them on a simple strength training program, just 2 sessions per week. Light weights, basic movements. Within 10 weeks, participants had increased their muscle strength by over 100%. Some individuals who had been using walkers were able to walk independently again. Think of your muscles like a garden. If you stop watering it, it doesn't stay the same. It withers. But if you tend to it, even late in the season, it can still grow. Let me tell you about a woman I worked with several years ago. Margaret was 78. She'd been active most of her life, but after a minor fall, she became afraid of getting hurt. She stopped doing much of anything physical. Within 2 years, she struggled to get out of her favorite chair. Her daughter had to help her with basic tasks. She felt like her body had betrayed her. When I suggested resistance training, she thought I was joking. But she agreed to try. We started with resistance bands, simple movements, bicep curls, leg extensions, seated rows, twice a week for 20 minutes. Within 3 months, she told me she felt stronger than she had in a decade. Within 6 months, she was gardening again. She wasn't lifting heavy barbells. She was simply giving her muscles a reason to stay strong. Here's what you can do starting today. You don't need a gym. You don't need expensive equipment. You need resistance. Start with body weight exercises, sit-to-stand movements from a chair, wall push-ups. If those feel manageable, add light dumbbells or resistance bands. Focus on the major muscle groups, legs, back, chest, arms. 2 days per week is enough. Give your body a day of rest in between. Move slowly and with control. It's the resistance that builds strength, not speed. Bonus tip: pair your strength training with a small protein rich snack afterward. A boiled egg, a handful of nuts, Greek yogurt. This helps your muscles recover and rebuild. Strength training after 75 is rare, but it's one of the most powerful things you can do to protect your independence. Now let's move to number 5. Number 5. They eat protein at every single meal. Most older adults don't realize they're protein deficient. They feel fine. They eat regular meals. They assume they're getting enough nutrition, but the body's need for protein doesn't decrease with age. It actually increases. Here's why this matters more than most people think. Protein is the building block of muscle, bone, immune cells, enzymes, and hormones. Every single day, your body breaks down old proteins and builds new ones. If you don't give your body enough raw material, it starts stealing from your muscles. This is especially true after age 70. Older adults don't absorb or utilize protein as efficiently as younger people. Research from the University of Texas Medical Branch found that seniors need approximately 30% more protein per meal to stimulate the same muscle-building response as someone in their 40s. Most seniors eat the majority of their protein at dinner, a small breakfast, a light lunch, then a larger evening meal, but your body can't stockpile protein for later. It needs a steady supply throughout the day. Think of protein like firewood for a stove. If you load it all in at once, much of it goes to waste. But if you add smaller amounts throughout the day, you keep the fire steady. The consequences of inadequate protein go beyond muscle loss. Low protein increases fall risk. It weakens immune function. It slows wound healing. It contributes to fatigue and low energy. A major study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed older adults over several years. Those who consumed adequate protein at each meal maintained significantly more muscle mass, better physical function, and lower rates of frailty compared to those who ate protein irregularly. Let me tell you about Harold. He was 81 when I met him, former carpenter, still lived independently, but he'd noticed he was getting weaker, tired more easily, losing weight without trying. When I asked him to walk me through a typical day of eating, the problem became clear. Breakfast was toast and coffee. Lunch was a sandwich with a thin slice of deli meat. Dinner was chicken or fish with vegetables. He thought he was eating well, but when we added it up, he was getting less than half the protein his body needed, and most of it came in one meal. We made a simple change. Added 2 eggs to breakfast, increased the portion of turkey at lunch, and added a piece of cheese, kept dinner the same but added a small Greek yogurt for dessert. Within a month, he noticed a difference: more energy, better strength during his morning walks. Within 3 months, he'd regained the weight he'd lost, but this time it was muscle, not fat. Here's the practical approach. Aim for at least 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal. That's roughly the size of your palm. Breakfast: eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, smoked salmon, or a protein smoothie. Lunch: chicken, turkey, tuna, beans, lentils, tofu, or lean beef. Dinner: fish, pork, chicken thighs, legumes, or a combination of plant proteins. If you struggle to eat large portions, add protein-rich snacks, a handful of almonds, a cheese stick, a hard-boiled egg. Bonus tip: older adults absorb animal proteins slightly more efficiently than plant proteins. If you're plant-based, slightly increase your portions and combine different sources like beans and rice to get complete proteins. Eating enough protein at every meal is uncommon among seniors, but it's one of the simplest ways to protect your strength, energy, and independence. Let's move to number 4. Number 4, they prioritize deep social connection, not just casual contact. Loneliness has become an epidemic among older adults, but most people misunderstand what loneliness actually means. You can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. You can attend social events, see neighbors, exchange pleasantries, and still lack the kind of connection that actually protects your health. What matters isn't the number of people you see, it's the depth of the relationships you maintain. Research from Harvard Medical School followed thousands of adults over nearly 8 decades. The findings were striking. People with strong, meaningful relationships lived longer, stayed mentally sharper, and reported greater life satisfaction than those with only surface level social contact. Deep connection means relationships where you feel understood, where you can be vulnerable, where you share experiences, emotions, and mutual support. Casual contact is pleasant but shallow. A wave to the mailman, small talk at the grocery store, a brief chat with a neighbor about the weather. Casual contact is nice, but it doesn't protect your brain or your heart the way deep connection does. Here's the biology. Chronic loneliness triggers a stress response in the body. It raises cortisol levels, it increases inflammation, it weakens immune function. Over time, loneliness contributes to high blood pressure, heart disease, cognitive decline, and even early death. In fact, researchers at Brigham Young University analyzed data from multiple studies and found that loneliness and social isolation increased mortality risk by nearly 30%. That's comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Think of meaningful relationships like roots of a tree. The deeper they go, the more stable and nourished the tree becomes. Shallow roots can't sustain growth during difficult seasons. Let me share a story about Vincent. He was 79, widowed for 6 years. He kept himself busy. He went to the senior center twice a week. He saw his neighbors. He talked to his kids on the phone every Sunday. But he felt empty. He realized he hadn't had a real conversation in months. Nobody asked how he really felt. He didn't share his worries or his memories. It was all surface. When we talked about it, he admitted he didn't want to burden anyone. He thought staying positive and independent meant keeping things light. I encouraged him to go deeper with at least one or two people, to be honest, to share more of himself. He reconnected with an old friend from his Navy days. They started meeting for coffee every week. They talked about real things: loss, fear, gratitude, purpose. Within weeks, Vincent told me he felt more alive than he had in years. He wasn't just passing time, he was connecting. Here's how to build deeper connection. Identify one or two people you trust: a sibling, an old friend, a neighbor, someone you feel comfortable with. Reach out regularly, not just when something's wrong. Make it a rhythm: weekly calls, monthly visits, consistent contact. Share more than surface details. Talk about what you're feeling, not just what you're doing. Ask meaningful questions. Listen fully. If you've lost close relationships, consider joining a group with shared meaning: a book club, a faith community, a volunteer organization, a hobby group. The goal isn't more people, it's more depth. Bonus tip: if mobility or distance makes in-person connection difficult, video calls are far more effective than phone calls. Seeing someone's face activates different parts of the brain and strengthens emotional bonds. Deep social connection after 75 is increasingly rare in our fragmented world, but it may be one of the most protective factors for both brain and heart health. Now let's talk about number 3. Number 3, they actively protect their sleep quality. Most older adults accept poor sleep as an inevitable part of aging, waking up multiple times during the night, struggling to fall asleep, feeling tired during the day. They assume there's nothing they can do about it. They think it's just what happens when you get older. That assumption is costing them years of health. Sleep is not a luxury, it's a biological necessity. During deep sleep, your brain clears out toxic waste products that build up during the day. Your immune system repairs damage. Your heart rate and blood pressure drop, giving your cardiovascular system a chance to recover. Without quality sleep, all of those processes break down. The link between poor sleep and dementia is particularly alarming. Research from the National Institutes of Health has shown that chronic sleep deprivation increases the accumulation of beta amyloid plaques in the brain. These are the same plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. Poor sleep also raises your risk of heart attack, stroke, diabetes, depression, and falls. Yet most seniors don't treat sleep as a priority. They stay up watching television. They drink coffee late in the afternoon. They nap irregularly. They keep their bedrooms too warm or too bright. The rare individuals who thrive in their late 70s and 80s do something different. They treat sleep like medicine. Think of sleep as your body's maintenance crew. If you keep interrupting them or not giving them enough time, the repairs don't get done. Over time, things start breaking down. A study from the University of California, Berkeley, found that adults who consistently slept less than 6 hours per night showed cognitive decline equivalent to aging several extra years. Let me tell you about Dorothy. She was 76, sharp mind, active lifestyle, but she'd been sleeping terribly for years. She'd wake up 4 or 5 times every night. She'd lie awake for hours. She felt exhausted every morning. She thought it was just part of getting older. She didn't mention it to anyone because she assumed nothing could be done. When we finally talked about it, I asked her to describe her evening routine. She drank 2 cups of coffee after dinner. She watched the news in bed. Her bedroom was warm and brightly lit. She had no consistent bedtime. Every single one of those habits was sabotaging her sleep. We made targeted changes. No caffeine after 2 in the afternoon. No screens an hour before bed. She lowered the temperature in her bedroom and used blackout curtains. She set a consistent bedtime and wake time, even on weekends. Within 2 weeks, she was sleeping through most of the night. Within a month, she felt like a different person, more energy, better mood, sharper memory. Here's how to protect your sleep starting tonight. Set a consistent sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. Your body thrives on rhythm. Eliminate caffeine after early afternoon. It stays in your system longer than you think. Create a cool, dark, quiet bedroom. Ideal temperature is around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Avoid screens for at least 1 hour before bed. The blue light interferes with melatonin production. If you nap, keep it short, 20 to 30 minutes maximum, and not after 3 in the afternoon. If you wake up during the night and can't fall back asleep within 20 minutes, get up. Do something calm and boring in dim light until you feel sleepy again. Bonus tip: gentle movement during the day, especially outdoors in natural sunlight, dramatically improves sleep quality at night. Even 15 minutes of morning sunlight helps regulate your circadian rhythm. Protecting sleep quality is rare among older adults, but it's one of the most effective ways to protect your brain, heart, and overall vitality. If you're finding these evidence-based strategies helpful, and you'd like to keep learning about healthy aging, consider subscribing so you don't miss future videos. Now let's move to number 2. Number 2, they practice balance exercises every single day. Falls are the leading cause of injury and death among adults over 75. Every year, more than 1 in 4 seniors experiences a fall. Many of those falls lead to fractures, hospitalizations, loss of independence, and a rapid decline in overall health. Most people don't think about balance until it's too late, until they've already fallen, until they've already broken a hip or a wrist. But balance doesn't disappear overnight. It deteriorates gradually. And just like strength or endurance, it can be trained and maintained. The rare individuals who stay mobile and independent into their 80s don't just hope they won't fall, they actively work on their balance every single day. Here's what most people don't understand. Balance isn't just about your inner ear or your leg strength. It's a complex system involving your vision, your proprioception, which is your body's sense of where it is in space, your reaction time, and your muscle coordination. All of these systems decline with age, but they decline much faster if you don't challenge them. The biology is fascinating. Your brain relies on constant feedback from your feet, ankles, and legs to make tiny adjustments that keep you upright. If you spend all day sitting or only walking on flat, predictable surfaces, your brain stops practicing those adjustments. It's like a skill you stop using. It fades. Research from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention found that simple balance exercises practiced regularly reduced fall risk by more than 20%. That's a significant, potentially life-saving difference. A study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society followed older adults who incorporated daily balance training. Those who practiced balance exercises just 10 minutes a day showed measurable improvements in stability, gait speed, and confidence within 6 weeks. Think of your balance system like a tightrope walker. If they only walk on solid ground, they lose the skill. But if they practice regularly, even for short sessions, they stay sharp. Let me tell you about Robert. He was 82, retired postal worker, still drove, still managed his home independently. But he'd had a close call. He tripped on the edge of a rug and barely caught himself. It shook him. He realized how easily that could have ended with a broken bone or worse. When I asked if he ever worked on his balance, he looked confused. He thought balance was something you either had or didn't. I explained that balance is trainable at any age. We started with the simplest exercise, standing on one foot while holding onto a chair, just 10 seconds per side, once a day. Within a week, he could do it without holding on. Within a month, he added other exercises, heel-to-toe walking, standing on one leg with eyes closed, weight shifts. He told me he felt more stable, more confident, less afraid of falling. Here's how to start improving your balance today. Practice standing on one foot. Hold on to a sturdy chair or counter at first. Aim for 10 to 30 seconds per side. Do this once or twice a day. Once that feels comfortable, try it without holding on. Next, practice heel-to-toe walking. Imagine you're walking on a tightrope. Place one foot directly in front of the other. Walk 10 steps forward, then 10 steps back. Add weight shifts. Stand with your feet hip-width apart. Shift your weight slowly from one foot to the other. Then shift forward onto your toes and back onto your heels. For an added challenge, practice these exercises with your eyes closed. This removes visual input and forces your body to rely more heavily on proprioception. Bonus tip: practice balance exercises during daily routines. Stand on one foot while brushing your teeth. Practice heel-to-toe walking while waiting for your coffee to brew. Make it a habit, not a chore. Daily balance training is extremely rare among people over 75, but it's one of the most effective ways to prevent falls and protect your independence. Now we come to number 1. This is the habit that surprised me most during my years in practice. It's the one that many healthcare professionals still overlook, and it may be the single most powerful tool you have for protecting your brain as you age. Number 1, they continuously learn new, complex skills. Most people stop learning new things after they retire. They settle into routines, they watch familiar shows, they do familiar activities, they stick with what they know. There's nothing wrong with routine, but the brain doesn't stay healthy through repetition. It stays healthy through challenge. The rare individuals who remain sharp, engaged, and mentally resilient into their 80s are the ones who never stop learning. Not just reading, not just puzzles, not just watching documentaries. Those activities are fine, but they're not enough. What protects the brain is learning something genuinely new, something complex, something that requires focus, practice, and mistakes. Learning a musical instrument, a new language, a craft like woodworking or painting, digital photography, how to use new technology, even complex strategy games or dance. Here's why this matters more than almost anything else. When you learn something new and challenging, Your brain builds new neural connections. It strengthens existing pathways. It increases what scientists call cognitive reserve, which is your brain's ability to adapt and compensate when damage occurs. Think of cognitive reserve like a savings account for your brain. The more you build it up, the longer you can withstand withdrawals from aging or disease. Research from the National Institute on Aging found that lifelong learning and mentally stimulating activities were among the strongest predictors of cognitive health in late life, even more predictive than genetics in many cases. A fascinating study from the University of Texas at Dallas took older adults and assigned them to learn a new skill. Some learned digital photography, others learned quilting. A control group simply socialized or did familiar activities like crossword puzzles. After 3 months, the groups who learned genuinely new, complex skills showed significant improvements in memory and cognitive function. The control group showed no improvement. The key was novelty and complexity, doing something unfamiliar, something that required sustained attention and problem solving. Think of your brain like a forest trail. If you walk the same path every day, it becomes smooth and automatic. But if you blaze new trails, the forest stays dense and interconnected. Let me tell you about Eleanor. She was 77 when I first met her. Retired librarian. She loved to read. She did crossword puzzles daily. She thought she was keeping her mind active, but she confided that she felt like her memory was slipping. She'd forget names, lose track of conversations. She worried she was developing dementia. I asked her when she'd last learned something completely new. She thought for a long time. She couldn't remember. I encouraged her to pick something, anything, as long as it was unfamiliar and mentally demanding. She decided to learn Spanish. She'd always wanted to travel to Spain but never had the chance. She started with an online course. She practiced daily. She joined a local conversation group. It was hard at first, frustrating. She made mistakes, but she stuck with it. A year later, she told me her memory felt sharper than it had in years. She wasn't just learning Spanish, she was building cognitive resilience. Here's how to apply this starting today. Choose one new skill that genuinely interests you. Something you've always wanted to learn but never made time for. It should be challenging, not impossible, but not easy. Commit to regular practice. Even 15 to 20 minutes a day is enough. Consistency matters more than duration. Embrace mistakes. Struggle is part of the process. That struggle is what builds new neural pathways. Ideas to consider. Learn a musical instrument. Study a new language. Take up painting or drawing. Learn to use a computer program. Try ballroom dancing. Learn chess or bridge at a higher level. Take up gardening with a focus on botany. Learn woodworking or knitting. The specific skill doesn't matter. What matters is that it's new, complex, and requires sustained mental effort. Bonus tip: learning something social is even better. A dance class, a language conversation group, a pottery workshop. The combination of cognitive challenge and social interaction creates a powerful protective effect. Continuous learning after 75 is extraordinarily rare. Most people coast, but those who keep learning are building one of the strongest defenses against cognitive decline. If you're between 75 and 85 and you're doing even one or two of these habits, you're already ahead of the majority. If you're doing 3 or 4, you're in rare company.